Today is Sunday, May 5th, 2019, and this is Celtics Beat here on CLNS Media, the leading online provider of audio, video coverage of your Boston Celtics. Episode 312, a very special episode 312, featuring Adam Kaufman and myself, Evan Valenti, is brought to you in part by betonline.ag. Go to clnsmedia.com/CelticsBeat. Use the promo code CLNS50 for a 50% bonus on your first deposit. Today's show is also brought to you in part by Robinhood. Robinhood is giving listeners a free stock to help you build your portfolio. Sign up today at Celtics.Robinhood.com.
All right, everybody, welcome into a new edition of Celtics Beat. This is this is unique. We don't typically record on a Sunday morning, so, you're getting this thing as really hot off the digital presses, I guess. And also, this show is going to have a little bit of a different feel. It's not going to be the standard, a beat guy comes on and we generally interview, have a conversation, that sort of. This is going to be much more a couple of dudes sitting at a bar with, whenever you don't hear me on this show, you hear Evan Valenti hosting in my place. Well, now you're going to get both of us. So hopefully you like both of us. If you don't like either of us, well, then you're really in trouble because this is not the show for you. You've got the two of us, and Ev, let's just jump into this thing because, as we know, Celtics have, not unlike the Bruins, who, by the way, have rallied back to take a 3-2 lead in that series, Celtics have fallen behind 2-1 after taking game one, lost the last couple, and now they've got this big game 4 coming up, which is, I know it's not technically a must win, but to win this series, really, I think we would agree you can view it as a must win. And that's, coming up tomorrow. Here's where I want to start, though, because you may have seen, I've been taking a lot of crap on Twitter.
You take a lot of crap on Twitter all the time, though.
I do.
This is not new.
No, I do on a regular basis, oftentimes because of things that I say on this show or that I tweet and then bring to this show. Right. And this is not any different because I made the twice, actually, but right before Game 3, I made the proclamation. I said, I don't know if you believe in jinxes. I don't really care. This is a guaranteed Celtics victory.
Nice.
And the reason that I felt that way, and hell, like in retrospect, I don't question my thinking at all. It was Kyrie plays like crap in Game 2. Tatum still has not found himself. Felt that those guys coming home would respond well in Game 3, just in general, which, by the way, you could argue they both did, at least in terms of bottom line statistics. But really where my motivation came from was I thought all the Havlicek tributes and the Johnny Most, Havlicek stole the ball, screaming, the Garden was just going to be so bananas that it was going to carry the Celtics to victory. And obviously that didn't happen.
Well, to your credit, Kyrie played okay. He had 29 points, 11-12 from the free throw line, 6 assists in the game. Tatum had his best game of the series by far. So in a way, you're correct. But after that, it's kind of rough looking at the bench when after you look at the starters. But look, you got to come out hot. You can't. And it's not like the hottest prediction anybody's ever made. I mean, you got Paul Pierce on the jump or after the game, after game one, saying the series is over. So I mean, if anybody's going to take some flack, I mean, I think it's going to be Paul Pierce for a while because come on, that's a ridiculous statement to make. But yeah, game 3 had a lot of emotion attached to it with John Havlicek, and again, you did a great job last week doing a great job of getting just a bunch of great people to talk about how awesome John Havlicek was. But you have a lot of emotion in the building for that game. I mean, the Garden always brings it in terms of playoff intensity. I did see somebody had a thread on Reddit at one point talking about how the ESPN microphones were so bad during that game because they did not capture the sound of the Garden in its entirety. And that's correct. It was factual. But you had a lot of emotion. You have a revved up Boston City, right? That's had a ton of success this year in terms of the sporting world and trying to will another team to another finals, which feels insane. And then your assumption of Kyrie coming back and having a big game was true because, I mean, he said it after the game. Like, I know what I have to do. I have to play better here, and here, and here. And I'm going to play better. Don't worry about it. So, your proclamation was good. Look, To throw him out there. I mean, I've thought about, are the Celtics done already? Like as a go the other direction, thinking about Boston matching up now against Giannis, who's going to go to the free throw line a million times a game. So you gotta find a mid ground. I think, Adam, you and me.
Do you believe in jinxes just in general? Like, I know growing up I did, and even through college I did, but I don't know, maybe working in this industry and covering teams and being around athletes and all that, it's just, and being in this culture that this industry is at this point where you're supposed to come out and have the hot takes or whatever. I'm not I just tweet or say what I believe, and if you want to interpret that as a hot take, that's on you. It's not intentionally a hot take. I don't say stuff just to rev people up. That's never been my style, and anyone who knows me knows that, or often will criticize me for that. But I don't believe I've just never in the last decade or so, I've never really been a jinx guy. Like it's so far removed. I remember back in college when the Red Sox were, and they didn't win in 2004 until I was just a few months out of school. But I remember some of those deeper playoff runs, like the year before when they lost the Game 7 on the Boone home run in the ALCS, and I was so anally retently superstitious, if that is even a phrase, in that series where I would sit in the same spot on the couch for every single game. Yeah. I wouldn't move. I would all this stuff that everybody wear the same.
Typical Red Sox behavior right here. Yes, this is typical Red Sox fan right here.
Right, exactly. Prototypical. But I don't know. I don't believe in jinxes at all anymore. Like, it doesn't even register to me that in some cosmic way, my saying, you know what, the Celtics are definitely going to go out and win Game 3 has any sort of bearing on the outcome of that game. But there are people, or at least they act like it on social media, that seem to really believe in that stuff.
The only thing, I do the respect biz sort of move with no hitters, where I just won't talk about it. Like, I don't believe in superstitions either, but like, I'm not going to be the guy that's like, hey, we're through 6 and no hits on the board here. Like that, I won't be that guy because I just have respect for the profession. But no, I don't think anybody saying anything is really, going to really, shift the balance of a series because you say something online. I think that's crazy. I think that's insane. But again, I respect the people that do it, that get crazy over that kind of stuff, because I've been that person before. Again, and the Red Sox are the sole reason why, no question about it. Because again, when you've gone through some of the heartbreaks of and again, older fans roll their eyes right now because look, I'm 29 years old. When I was younger, the Red Sox made an art form out of collapsing in the second half of the year.
Right.
I'm sick of watching that. All right, now that we've had a nice run. I'm very thankful for it, but no, I don't do any of that stuff. The no-hitter thing, I think, is just a respect thing. But other than that, no, I don't really care.
So, in the spirit of stupid crap that people either choose to believe or not believe, to bring it back to the Celtics, and you brought up all the free throws from Giannis Antetokounmpo, who, by the way, if my math, I know this was true at least halfway through Game 3, and I haven't gone back to see if the math still checks out, but I believe it does. He has in this series taken more free throw attempts than field goal attempts.
I believe that.
Which is just insane. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. It absolutely, where I agree with Kyrie Irving, it absolutely slows down the flow of the game. I don't think there's any way to argue that. What I do not believe, and I'm glad that Brad Stevens did not say this or Jaylen Brown did not say this. Kyrie kind of alluded to it, but ultimately wouldn't go there. But a lot of people in the media or fans want to point to it. The Celtics, I tweeted this yesterday. The Celtics lost that game because they lost their heads and they did not play well from basically 3-4 minutes left in the third quarter till the end. They didn't lose because of officiating. They lost because they started to play like crap. They got too sloppy. They turned the ball over too much. They maybe got in their own heads as a result of the way the officiating was going.
That's the one I'm going with. I think they clearly.
But they didn't lose because of the officiating.
No, I think the officiating got in their heads and they just. They stopped running offensive sets and just started taking stupid shots at the end of the game. I mean,
and they started to, let's take 3 after 3 after 3.
Right.
We've seen them do 100 times this year to try and shoot their way back into a game, and sometimes that works, but more often than not, it doesn't.
No, and they don't realize that there's a lot of game left, and a 10-point lead isn't that big of a deal when you're the Boston Celtics, and you can get open looks from 3-point range if you just are a little bit more methodical about it. I mean, that's the one thing about this team that drives me nuts, and I think it's driving a lot of people nuts this year. The officiating played in their heads. It's not the reason why they lost. They were sloppy in the first half of the basketball. I mean, you just got to be better than that. I think they had like 7 turnovers in the first quarter.
Yeah, and I think they put 18, 20 for the game, something like that.
I mean, you just can't turn the ball over that many times in a playoff game against a team that's better than they had 17 turnovers in Game 3. I mean, that's just not going to get it done. And to be frankly honest about that, you can talk about the free throws if you want, all that garbage. You're not going to beat a team that won 60 games in the regular season if you're turning the ball over 17 times a game. It's just not going to work. And a result of the bad foul situation, you have guys now trying to press, as you've talked about. You have guys now that are getting lazy on defense and not getting back after misses because you have so many misses in a row now, right? You're chucking shots from 3, and now you have all these misses in a row. And guess what? That feeds into Milwaukee's hands because they love to get out on the break with Giannis as a ball handler, or Chris Middleton will take the ball from one end of the court to the other and pull up from 3-point range and hit that because you're not set yet. I mean, this is what happens. These things compound themselves. And, and as Brad has talked about, and it's the way you have to play the Warriors too. You can't take a possession off. Every single possession is valuable. Boston plays that way when they play Golden State. They're not playing like it right now when they're playing Milwaukee.
Why do you suppose, though, what we saw in Game 1 has been so different these last couple of games? People like to point to, well, here they are, the regular season Celtics game. The inconsistency and lack of balance, lack of bench play, whatever that you see over the course of the season now rearing its ugly head against Milwaukee. I think you go back to that Pacers series, and I said at the time, and another thing I said on Twitter and got killed for, they swept the series. They didn't play well in that series. They won in convincing fashion, not game to game, but overall for the series, because they played a far inferior team with no stars. You look back at that series, they didn't win a single one of those games by more than 10 points. It was, 10, it was 8, it was 8, and it was 4. And in each of them, they trailed in the second half. So you knew coming into this series against the Bucks, they were going to have to be substantially better. In Game 1, they were. They basically played, at least compared to that Indiana series, a perfect 48 minutes. The last couple of games, the defense has abandoned them. That, walling off Giannis Antetokounmpo has not worked. They haven't even really attempted to in the same way. I don't know if the Aaron Baines injury has played into that, and he has not been as significant and as available as he was back in Game 1. And then you have, again, Kyrie has he had 29 points the last time, but he's missed 14 shots each of these last 2 games. You have the abundance of turnovers that we've already talked about. Tatum not showing up until Game 3. Morris has been good. Brown has been pretty good. Gordon Hayward, who's supposed to be this X factor in the playoffs, has really, he's had 1 good game in the playoffs. Maybe you could say 2. 1 particularly good statistical game. But generally in this series has not played well. Pretty good in Game 1, terrible the last couple. There are all sorts of things that you look at this series that you say, this is concerning. How they're going to rebound from this in Game 4.
Let me ask you a question.
Please.
Is Jaylen Brown the best player for the Celtics in the series right now? Is he having the best series?
It's either him or Marcus Morris.
I just find that interesting. Jaylen is, if you go back to last year, Jaylen played really well against Milwaukee last year until he got hurt. He was like kind of their big key. And maybe Brad has to realize that Jaylen's really just geared up for this Milwaukee series whenever he plays the Bucks. I mean, he's playing well on both ends for the most part. I mean, you go back to that ridiculous foul call he got trying to guard Eric Bledsoe right in front of Coach Bud there and got a stupid foul call way late. But other than that, I've been pretty impressed. He's not afraid of Giannis, by the way. He's dunked on Giannis twice this series. Out of all the people that you would have expected, I'm not sure if I would have expected Jaylen Brown to be the best player for Boston this series so far. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing for Boston or not. You would think that in a series against Giannis, who's emerging as, a top 5 player in the league right now, that Kyrie would need to have to be your best player for you to win that series. I mean, just to be honest with you, Kyrie is super talented. And at so far, I'm not trying to kill Kyrie. He's been pretty good outside of Game 2, where he was awful. I mean, Game 3, yeah, he had 29 points, but as you pointed out, he missed a ton of shots. But at least he got in the column and got to the free throw line, thankfully.
Right.
But it's been Jaylen, I think by a significant margin right now, and I can't bode well for Boston. I do think that Kyrie has to play like Kyrie's supposed to play, and if Jaylen's going to be this lightning rod and nobody else is going to respond, then you're just going to have a problem. But if you were to take one thing away from how pitiful Game 3 was, Adam, to build on, what are you doing if you're Stevens? I mean, you got to have something to look back on and say, we're doing this well. Because Brad talked about it. I think he was somewhat upbeat about the way they played. But, what would you take from Game 3 and say, if we just do more of this, we're going to be fine?
Offensive balance.
Yeah.
The fact that there was no one guy that had to get a shot at all times. I mean, yes, you had Kyrie take the 22 shots, and like you, I'm happy about the aggressiveness going to the free throw line. I want to see more of that. I want to see more of it from Tatum. I want to see more of it from Horford and so on. Brown doesn't have to do it. We know that he's not the best free throw shooter in the world anyway, although he is shooting pretty well in this series. But, I think it is the balance. I think that, you had Morris, Tatum, Horford, Irving, Brown, all of those guys, for the most part, hitting their shots. They all had, except for Irving, good shooting nights, and they all took enough shots to, be respectable to kind of fall in line with who they are. I think the problem that you look to improve upon somehow is just how little you got from the bench in that last game. You had 16 total points between Hayward and Ojale, and obviously down the stretch, you had the starters coming out because they didn't have to finish that game as it was. I'm just looking at it now. You've got 4 for 16 were the shots from the bench in that Game 3 loss. Only went to the free throw line 4 times. Those were all Hayward. 3-point shooting was fine, and those are the only shots that they hit, by the way, Ojale and Hayward. Nobody else hit anything from inside, which brings me back to, just off the top of my head, too, I saw this, that I think it was Mark D'Amico tweeted it. What was the number? It was like 5 for 15 or something like that. Somewhere in that general range of inefficiency, the Celtics in that game from within 5 feet.
Oh.
The scoring in the paint was atrocious. I think it was 52-24, rough numbers anyway. The shooting, the points in the paint between the Bucks and the Celtics, it feels, you look at the numbers on paper and you say, okay, they went to the free throw line 32 times, they made 30, but the efficiency was kind of a mirage where they were in that game. A lot of that stuff came late. So I don't know.
Well, part of that is because,
to answer your question, you got to continue to be aggressive inside, but much more aggressive than you were the last time out.
Well, part of the reason why it's hard to score inside against the Bucks is their length. I mean, I know that Brook Lopez might not be the best defender of all time, and Boston's done a nice job of just absolutely roasting him in pick and roll. But there are other guys in that team that are long and can play defense. Giannis covers a lot of ground. Chris Middleton's a great defender. Bledsoe's having a great series defensively. He is a train wreck on offense, but he is having at least a somewhat good run here defensively for Milwaukee. I think George Hill's played somewhat well. He played really well in Game 3. But they have some length on the inside, and that's making life difficult. And how many blocks did the Bucks have last game? They had 7 blocks, and they're tough on the interior part of the paint. And that's why Boston had so much success in Game 1 finding the mid range and hitting from the mid range. And because those shots are going to be open, they're going to guard the 3-point line, and they're going to pack the paint. They're going to make them beat you from the most inefficient area on the floor. And if Boston's going to hit shots from there, then maybe it opens up the middle. But if they're not going to hit shots in there, life's going to become difficult. And if Morris is having a bad game, then that's going to be bad. Tatum loves the mid range. He frequently pulls up there. Kyrie is sort of a mid range maestro if he has the right matchup. Sometimes I think he settles on certain guys in the mid range too much. Like when he has the big advantage, like when he's got a big on him, like just go to the rack because you're Kyrie Irving and you're going to get fouled, or you'll get a nice finish because he's just incredible at it. But the Bucks defensively are a really good team. They're one of the better defensive teams in the NBA all season. I think Boston's going to struggle against this team just based off their length in general. But I just think if Boston hits a couple more shots from the outside a little bit better, they can really open this up and really compete with this Bucks team. I don't think this series is over, and I think you kind of introed the podcast with Boston just watched the Bruins get down 2-1 and then take control of the series now up 3-2. They can obviously come back here and make this interesting, but now you're going to have to try and beat the Bucks going to game 4, there's only 4 games left, and you got to somehow find a way to win 3 of those 4 against a tough Milwaukee team. That's going to be difficult. I mean, the deck is stacked against Boston right now, and I'm looking at this roster and I'm saying, all right, there's, it's obviously possible, but I mean, certain guys really have to step up their game, and somebody has to play well off the bench. I mean, you can't just get zeros. You can't have Semi Ojeleye come off the bench and be your best player off the bench. It's not going to work.
Adam, let's take a quick break to tell you today's show is brought to you in part by BetOnline.ag. The NBA playoffs are here. It's time to make some serious money. The C's are plus 1,400 to win the NBA title. So if they get past Milwaukee, they get past the next round, move on to the NBA Finals, and win the NBA Finals. You bet 100, you win $1,400. Not a bad bet if you're a diehard C's fan, okay? If you want to go series to series, not a problem there. That also works, okay? And go against the Bucks right now, down 2-1. Your odds are going to be pretty good. If you think they're going to come out of the East, roll with them at plus 550. Again, great odds. Go to clnsmedia.com/CelticsBeat to get a 50% bonus when you sign up and use the promo code CLNS50. Don't be left on the sidelines. All this excitement going on in the court. Plus, they have the online virtual casino. You can make some money there as well. You have futures for MLB right now. You have NFL futures already out. There's the NHL playoffs too. Bunch of things for you to make money on. If you miss the Derby, of course, that stinks, but you got the Preakness still and the Belmont coming up too, so there'll be some horse racing opportunities there. A lot going on in the sporting world. Make some money today and make sure whatever you do, you use betonline.ag. Use the promo code CLNS50 for a 50% bonus on your first deposit, and clnsmedia.com/CelticsBeat, promo code CLNS50.
You know what I think it boils down to? I think we're talking a lot about, and understandably, a lot about who you need more from, or strategically what you need to do offensively. Celtics over these 3 games have scored 112, 102, 116. I don't have any problem with their offense.
This is a fair point.
For the most part, I don't have any issue with their offense. And even if you don't want to highlight bottom line numbers like I just did, generally watching the flow of the game and how everything shakes out by the end, I don't have an issue with the offense. It's the defense. They've allowed 123 points each of the last 2 games. How many games are you going to win when you allow 123 points? Even if the Celtics put up 120 in each of those 2 games, which would be a very good, well above average offensive night, how many games are you going to win doing that? So they have given up 123 each of the last 2 after 90 in that first game where they, I'm not going to say shut down, but certainly contained and stifled and frustrated Giannis Antetokounmpo. In this last game, and I can't believe it's taken us this long to even bring this up, freaking George Hill had 21 points.
Right.
George Hill in a playoff game had 21 points against this Celtics team. And, Giannis is going to get his, as he should. You got to worry about the other guys. Middleton went off in game 2.
Middleton kills me. I think Middleton haunts my sleep. I have he is unbelievable against Boston. I don't understand why he just turns it on against Boston, but he kills me.
I love him.
Is he good?
I love him. I love watching him. I think he's great. But there can't always be. And I don't have all these box scores up in front of me, but just kind of going off the top of my head here, like in this most recent game, yeah, Giannis was great. He got his. He had 16 points at the free throw line, which is half his points. But Middleton went for 20. Hill went for 20. Connaughton off the bench against the hometown team had about 14, 15. Mirotic, same type of deal now that he has rediscovered himself as a starter. You go back to the previous game when Bledsoe, who was terrible in game 1, he was pretty terrible in game 3. He was very good in game 2. Connaughton was pretty good in that one as well. Mirotic was
listen to some of the guys you're listing off, though. You're listing off guards. Boston has a problem guarding guards right now. I mean, freaking Pat Connaughton had 14 points, and every shot he made was big. It felt like every shot he buried was a big shot at a big time, and that's the troubling thing. And we're all waiting, hopefully, for the return of Marcus Smart, maybe for Game 4. Maybe.
Do you
for
believe
Game
that?
5.
Let's just do that real quick. Do you believe that? I know there's so much hype around it. People are obsessed over whether Smart returns, over whether Brogdon returns, and it's both fan bases feel the same way. It sounds like, obviously, we're recording this early on Sunday morning, that Smart is going to maybe take part in practice today. Do we believe he's ready to step into a playoff game in Game 4?
Defensively, I think he might be. If you're expecting offensive, his offensive efficiency he's had all season from 3-point range, then you might be wishful thinking, we'll say. But I think defensively, he's always ready to battle. I mean, that's the one thing I admire about Marcus Smart was from minute one on an NBA floor, you knew he was just going to play defense and be a really good defensive player. So if he were to come back, I think he would, not only help defensively, I think he'd bring energy. Obviously, this team plays different with a different swagger when he's on the floor. I think he would help in those two areas. I mean, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to chase George Hill around the entire game, but he's going to at least give you maximum effort while he does. I think the signs we've seen all week are encouraging. I mean, he's playing, just shooting around, then he's sprinting, then he's dunking, and then all of a sudden he's playing 3-on-3 and 4-on-4 and all that stuff. It's like, okay, we're progressing very nicely here to a point where this could be possible. But be honest with yourself. Like, did you think Marcus Smart was going to take all 6 weeks to come back from this injury? Because I did not.
No, of course not.
We all know him. He's a maniac. He's such a driven guy, and he's always just trying to make sure he's playing. And it's one of the more admirable things about him. I mean, there's so many great traits to Marcus Smart, and I'm thrilled that him and Danny came to some agreement this offseason for a contract. But man, the one thing you never question Marcus Smart on is effort. And if you get it back, that his effort is going to be a little more contagious. And, it might have a great effect on certain guys, and it might tank Terry Rozier's feelings. But, they're going to need that. They're going to need that guy. Because right now they're getting smoked by guards. You can't let Pat Connaughton beat you, and you cannot let George Hill go off for 21 points. You're absolutely right. I mean, you can't let the backup, the backcourt go off for 35 points in a playoff game. It's just not going to work. You have to play better defense. You're absolutely correct.
What I love with Smart, too, and this is, a little bit off topic, but you alluded to it with them coming to that contract agreement, the $52 million last year, a number I will never forget simply because he made that terrible rap song about it.
Awful.
It was so bad. Is this, how many guys, no matter the sport, whichever profession, how many of these guys go and have a better year, a career year, after signing a new contract?
Yeah, it's
often. which is just so standard Marcus Smart. Like, of course, Marcus Smart, now that he's not dealing with any hand-related injuries, because I said it, you probably remember because you listen to all these shows. Yeah. I said last year going into the season, my grand prediction for the Celtics was Marcus Smart is going to be a 36% three-point shooter. That was specifically the number that I was touting, and I was doing it on social media and everywhere else. And he goes out, and as we know, bad year. I don't even remember what he shot, 29, 30%, like that. He had the hand injury from punching the frame, and he missed time. And then he had the hand injury later on in the playoffs on the fluky play. He got hurt. And so it was not a good year for him on the whole. And it looked like that was really going to cost him money in the offseason. And ultimately they figured it out. And I think Danny Ainge just loves him so much that he made it a point to bring him back, and he was going to pay what it was, even though he was effectively bidding against himself. There was nobody else out there. But the fact that Smart has now turned himself into that shooter where it doesn't seem fluky. It seems like, at least when healthy and not dealing with a hand injury, this is the new Marcus Smart. And he's just, Celtics like to talk about flipping switches. It seems like something has just clicked, no more snow day practices and stuff like that. Yeah. Just, this is the real Marcus. And you always knew what you were going to get defensively, as you said. And he should be that all defensive team player this year. But the fact that the offense, and not just the improved playmaking skills and passing skills that we've seen in spurts and increasingly consistent over the last couple of years, the fact that he can now shoot as well, it makes me really happy.
You know what's funny though? You mentioned like how often do you see a guy have a better year after, the contract year, like after he signs a contract. Now his next year's really great. You know what's going to do that? It's Terry Rozier. I guarantee it. I guarantee that Terry Rozier
it just won't be here.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, look, Mark. I'm hoping that Marcus gets back. He's just the lifeblood of this team. He's supremely important to what they do, and is a big part of why the culture is the way it is. But going into Game 4 here, I don't know if I'm feeling anything at all. I'm really honest. To be honest with you, Adam, like I don't know. Like I need to see. They obviously can play with this team. It's not like they can't, but like I need to see better focus on both ends. I mean, one end I got to see better focus just all the way around, communicating defensively, fighting through screens, going through all that stuff. I know Giannis is going to get in the paint. We all know that, but limiting the other guys has to be a priority. You can't let guys get open shots. Maybe they're collapsing too hard on Giannis. Maybe that's, and they're all willing to help too much on Giannis. Maybe they can maybe back off on that so they can recover the shooters a little bit easier. Because they've been, I mean, that's the one thing, man. When Giannis gets in the paint, he's got 3 guys on him. And maybe that's just being overzealous now. Maybe they have to dial that back and get back on shooters. And as you said, like let Giannis beat them. And then on the other side of the floor, I mean, just having better possessions and don't get caught up in trying to play one-on-one with Giannis, because you're not going to beat him one-on-one. You're just not. He's really good, especially if Kyrie's not playing well. I mean, if Kyrie's missing 14 shots, you can't play Giannis one-on-one. You can't play him straight up. You have to find ways to get everybody involved and get everybody, not just the starters who had a great game last game, but the bench guys too. But I just say at this point, I need to see. I mean, again, I think Boston can obviously win the series, but I need to see a lot better focus on both ends before I'm convinced these guys can win 3 games in 4.
One more quick break to tell you today's show is also brought to you in part by Robinhood. Robinhood is an investing app that lets you buy and sell stocks, ETFs, options, and cryptos, all commission-free. While other brokerages charge up to $10 for every trade, Robinhood doesn't. They don't charge any commission fees. You can trade stocks and keep all of your profits. Plus, there's no account minimum deposit needed to get started, so you can invest on any level. The simple, intuitive design of Robinhood makes investing easy for newcomers and experts alike. View easy-to-understand charts and market data and place a trade in just 4 taps on your smartphone. You can also view stock collections, such as 100 Most Popular, a bunch of others as well, to make life easier for you. With Robinhood, you can learn how to invest in the market as you build your portfolio. Discover new stocks, track your favorite companies, and get custom notifications for price movements so you never miss the right moment to invest. And Robinhood is giving listeners of Celtics Beat a free stock like Apple, Ford, or Sprint to help you build your portfolio. Sign up today, Celtics.Robinhood.com. Again, that's a free stock when you sign up at Celtics.Robinhood.com. Back to the show.
What's that one thing that I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this. What's that one thing that you feel like you have to see without exception for the Celtics to win, to beat the Bucks? And what I mean by that is, I would have said coming into the series, like, Gordon Hayward has to be really, really good. Well, you know what? They beat him in a game that he wasn't really, really good. Marcus Smart has to come back. Well, they beat him in a game and Marcus Smart didn't play. Jason Tatum needs to be your second best offensive player. Well, they beat him in game 1. Jason Tatum had a crappy game. So the Bucks are a beatable team. Now, maybe they're not beatable in 3 out of the next 4. We'll find out. But what's that thing that you feel like it just has to happen in order for the Celtics to win? And, maybe for me, as I talk this out just out loud, I'm just now thinking about it. Maybe it's that Kyrie Irving just has to be exceptional. He has to be efficient from the field. He has to shoot well. He has to score a bunch of points. Doesn't mean he has to go for 40 or 50, but he has to be your calming, your steadying offensive presence and shoot efficiently. That's what we saw in game 1. We certainly didn't see that in either game 2 or 3. Maybe for me, that's the thing that has to happen independent of everything else.
Well, you think about the effect it has on everybody else, though. Like if he's playing well, how that affects the entire team, and that could be the thing. I mean, that could be it. You could make an argument for that, or I think they just defensively have to be better. I mean, the point that you've made that's still ringing in my head here is the Bucks have scored 123 points the past 2 games, and that's just
right. You're
gonna win 0 of those games unless you have the craziest night you've ever had in your life from the field. Against a historically good defensive team, it's just not gonna work out. So I think either one of those two you can go with. I think the energy you get when Kyrie plays well, as it translates throughout the rest of the roster, I think can be palpable on both ends. Like you can feel that. on both ends. So I'm not sure if one or the other matters more. I think both those things have to happen. I just think both those things have to happen. Again, the thing about Gordon is, I want to mention this because it's driving me absolutely insane. The ball has to find Gordon Hayward a lot. It has to find him a lot. The way the ball moves when he touches it, it's like it's the same thing Al Horford. Like when Al Horford's on the floor, right? And let's say like Gordon's not, it's Kyrie and Al. Like those guys have to touch the ball a lot. When Kyrie's not on the floor, Al Horford or Gordon Hayward has to touch the ball every time. I mean, just because good things happen when they touch the basketball, and it drives me insane when you'll have Rozier out there with Hayward and Morris and Baines and I don't know, let's just say Jaylen or something. When that unit's out there and Hayward doesn't touch the ball, like bad things generally happen. I mean, because Rozier goes one-on-one or Morris goes one-on-one and they don't get good shots. They get contested shots. And Morris might be hot one day and make a bunch of them, or Rozier might be feeling it that day. But at the end of the day, those aren't good possessions. Gordon Hayward makes good things happen by prying into the middle of the paint, getting in the lane, and finding, whatever to do from there, whether it's, attack the basket, maybe take a fadeaway or get the ball outside. It's just good things happen when he touches the basketball, and I don't think he touches the basketball enough, and it drives me insane. Like, I'm on my couch, I'm yelling at the TV, I feel like I'm the crazy man, but, he just doesn't touch it enough. It's been such a revelation to watch him since, let's say, February to now, because it's just been slowly adding and slowly adding and slowly adding, and now you're like, wow, this is what a player this guy is, what a find this is, because he's played extremely well. I know he hasn't shot the ball particularly well the last two games, but again, good things happen when he finds the basketball, and it just has to keep happening. And the fact that it doesn't happen a lot drives me insane.
It's funny. I'm looking at his numbers right now, series to series, Bucks and Pacers. And there are so many consistencies, but obviously the inconsistencies are glaring. For instance, the minutes basically identical, Bucks versus Pacers. The turnovers identical, fouls identical, steals not far off, a couple more against the Pacers on average 1 versus 0.3. Blocks identical, rebounds not far off. The assists actually, as a facilitator or just dumb luck of a guy hitting a shot versus not, he's been better against the Bucks. It's 4.3 versus 1.8. Free throws, he's getting to the line the same amount. He hasn't missed a free throw in the playoffs so far. 3-point shooting, same rate, 38% for each round. What it comes down to is 9 shots per game against the Pacers, 7 against the Bucks. And against Indiana, he made 50% of his shots, and against Milwaukee, he's hit 36. So as a result, the points are a few less. I imagine the confidence, the rhythm, all of it. I'm not going to go so far as to say, because I'm not in his head, that it's taken a toll on him or it's impacted his confidence. I think it's just a little bit of dumb luck. But, to a certain extent, too, shooters got to shoot, and he is a good shooter. And over the last 2 games, he has shot a combined 3 for 13. Regardless of the ball flowing through him, as we always talk about with Horford, like the ball can go through him and the offense can filter through Horford, even if he's still taking only 8 or 9 shots for an entire game. We need to see Gordon Hayward getting his shots, getting his opportunities in that way. It's more than about him just getting touches. We need him getting shots. He needs to get into a rhythm of a game, and we have not seen that at all in the last 2.
Yeah, I'm with you. He more aggressive Gordon is a big part of what I'm looking for Game 4. More aggressive Gordon, more efficient Kyrie, better communication on the defensive end, and hopefully more energy here. Again, Boston's played them tight. It's just been these weird parts of the third quarter and into the fourth quarter where they just let it, bog them down. But they've played Milwaukee pretty tight through the first, half of every single game. Then obviously game 1 was the best 48 minutes they've played all year. But continuing to just remember that they can hang with this team too. Just don't get mentally bogged down by things and don't get caught up in things. That's been, again, the game 3. That was the one thing I was like, I can't believe this team just didn't have enough mental toughness to get through that stretch. They had no mental toughness, and it sucked. And to watch them, kind of just fade away. And again, I know the calls are tough. I'm not saying the calls aren't tough, but when they're late, it's even tougher to swallow. And with Giannis, it's like, how do you even defend this guy? It's the same thing with Shaq. Like, I know people talk about, him being the next coming of Shaq, like that's a crazy thing, but like how do you officiate Shaq? How do you officiate LeBron? Like, it's almost impossible because you can call so much on every single play, whether it's he's initiating the contact or somebody's getting contacted with him. Like, you can go, it's every play. But what do you let go and what do you not let go? I mean, there has to be some consistent line somewhere. I think Boston was physical with him in game 1 and expected that to carry on for the next 2 games, and I don't think it has. So I think their complaints of, maybe, what are we supposed to do here with Giannis? Like, he gets into the paint all the time and comes barreling in. Are we not supposed to be able to also touch him? Like, I get it, but it's been such a mental crutch for Boston, and it really killed them last game. It really did.
So what's your, it doesn't need to be a grand proclamation, but to circle back to where we were at the start of the show, what is your gut feeling? I know you said you don't really have one, but if you attempted to have one for Game 4, what do you think?
Well, I think it's a must-win for Boston. I don't know if they'll win, though. I don't know. I have a hard time feeling like they win Game 4 without some significant improvements in certain areas. And I know people are going to be like, well, that's crazy. I'm like, no, it's not, because that's how good Milwaukee is. Milwaukee's a really good basketball team. And, the homer and me picked the Celtics to win the series because I'm a homer, and that's fine. I'm not going to not pick my team. I love watching Boston. But Milwaukee's really good. And, Giannis is a beast. I got to see him in person last year, and he scored the most effortless 40 points I've ever seen. It was unbelievable. It was on Greek night, too, which was pretty cool. But, Kyrie's got to play better. I think that they're in some trouble, though. I do think they're in trouble. And if Milwaukee comes out like I think they're going to come out, knowing that, I think Game 4 for them is also kind of like this, if we win this game, it's over. I think they might come out with that mentality, and I think it might be hard for Boston to win.
I was walking down the street not long ago. This was during the regular season when the Bucks were in town, and I'm not going to say. I mean, plenty of people probably know the autograph seekers and everything, but I know where visiting teams stay when they're in Boston, what hotel they're at. And I was walking down the street. I just happened to randomly be in the area. I was not one of those people chasing down autographs. And I just walked by Giannis. He was by himself, just heading back to the hotel, coming from wherever, maybe a workout at the gym or something like that.
Right.
But just passed him on the street, and he goes by me, and I just stopped, and I turn around, I look at him. It's like even if you didn't know, Giannis when you see him.
Right. Right. Can't miss him.
Yeah, just such a big, unique looking dude that it was pretty crazy. But
you feeling confident here or no? You feel any confidence in the Celtics at this point or no?
I mean, yes, I'm confident that they're going to keep it interesting. Whether that means they even the series versus fall down 3-1 and then, win Game 5 to make it 3-2. I'm really not sure. I mean, what was your prediction going into the series? Had you even made one?
In my head, and I don't think I did it on Twitter, but in my head, I said season 7.
Okay.
But obviously now I'm not feeling nearly as confident.
Well, so my prediction going into the series that I said on the show with, I don't even remember.
Was it D'Amico maybe?
Maybe it was D'Amico, yeah. Was Bucks in 6. And I suddenly felt not so great about that in a very good way after Game 1. But now I feel like we're kind of trending right back toward that. And right. I don't clearly, as someone who covers the team, follows the team, roots for the team, is a fan of the team. I don't want to see that happen. I'd like to have at least a few more weeks of playoff basketball around here. But yeah, it's hard to be. I feel like it would be delusional. It would be very, as the critics like to say, very green teamer-esque to be overly confident right now with what we've seen these last 2 games. Yeah. It's just difficult. And I think as much time as we spent off the top of the show talking about the offense, it really does go back to the defense. If the defense can, I'm not worried about the Celtics winning a game. They only score, 97 points. If the defense is what it was in game one. And I don't entirely know how they get themselves back to that. It's possible. It's, they've shown it not long ago, not even a week ago, but how they revert back to it, I just don't entirely know.
Can we I want to take just a minute here to complain. There's a reason why we're doing this show the way it is right now. It's because this schedule is completely whack. This is the most brutal. I don't know who put the playoff schedule together, but this is the worst. I'm telling you right now. The way hockey does it, and I hate to do this. I hate to do this, but the way hockey does it is better. It's just way better. There's a game every other day. Doesn't matter if you're traveling, whatever. It's just better. I mean, and you can set your watch to it. I have no idea. I always know when the Bruins are playing. I don't know always when the Seas are playing. Like, this is nonsensical. This is nonsense. Because, look, I'm going to peel back the Iron Curtain here. Here's how this works. Adam and I talked during the playoffs. Well, when does it make the best time to do this show, right? Do we do it, for this one specifically, do we do it today when there's this weird layoff before Game 4? Do we wait till after Game 4 so we have 2 games left? Like, what do we do here? Like, we couldn't do it Friday because that was Game 3. And you would lose so much, clout in the podcast rankings if you were to do one after Game 3 and then just have so much dead airtime. This schedule sucks. I mean, it really does. It's the dumbest thing they put together. It bothers me. There's not 2 games. Like, I would rather have a night where I didn't have basketball than have the next night have 2 games. Because I don't know what to do with myself with these nights that there's only 1 game on. Like,
well, here's what I really don't understand. And I had said this to you when we were texting trying to figure out, as you said, when to do the show. All right, so the Celtics are home Friday, the Bruins are home Saturday.
Why is nobody playing Sunday?
The NBA, of course, would prefer weekend ratings. It's not like today is Mother's Day.
Right.
Why is this thing going on Monday? There must be something at the Garden. So as you were talking, I just pulled up the Garden box office. There is no event at the TD Garden today. So in what universe?
Adam, what are we doing here?
It makes sense that Game 4 of this series isn't happening today. I don't understand it at all.
It's ridiculous. The only thing that helps is another day of rest for Marcus Smart. It's really it. It's the only good that's coming out of this. But I can't do it. Like, I need to have 2 games on at night. Like, if it's a weeknight and there's NBA playoffs on, I can't have this 1 game thing. I need the 8 o'clock and then the 11. Like, it's just like after it's done, like I don't know what to watch anymore. Because a lot of these games have been really good. Like, the Philly series with Toronto was fascinating. Just for the drama of it, Houston Golden State has been really fun and dramatic and ridiculous with all of the fouling and stuff. Like, it's been a fun. Like, energize and look at Portland and Denver. Like, that's been a fun series too. That game went to 4 or 5 overtimes.
4 overtimes.
What in the world? Like, this has been great. I need more. Like, I just can't. This 1 game thing. I'm just not doing it. It's not doing it for me.
All right. Well, I think that's probably as good a place for us to end because we can both sit ahead to do nothing later on today as we wait for this game, and then we'll figure out when during the week to drop the next one. Because again, if you've looked ahead as I have, it's the exact same thing next weekend. If the Celtics are still playing anyway, it's Friday, Monday, nothing on the weekend. It doesn't make any
garbage.
Doesn't make sense.
What am I supposed to do? Watch the Red Sox right now? I mean, come on.
Not right now. Look, they're playing better. I think they've won 5 out of 6.
Yeah.
But I can't when the Celtics are still playing in May and the Bruins are still playing in May.
I don't care.
I can't get invested in Red Sox baseball right now. And I am a fan. I'm not as diehard a fan as I once was in my life, but I am a fan, and I can't do it right now with all this other stuff.
I know is Michael Chavis, or is it Chavis or Chavis?
Chavis.
Yeah. Michael Chavis is killing it right now. That's all.
Oh, he's the answer to all their problems.
The ice horse, huh? Is that what we're calling him? We're calling him the ice horse?
Yeah, I don't even know. I know that's like I think it's a Jared Carrabis thing. I have no idea where it came from.
No.
I don't know what the
kind of into it, but I gotta hear more of why he's the ice horse.
Yeah, I need some background on that.
Game of Thrones related thing?
Maybe. I don't watch that either, which I'm sure.
Wow.
I know.
Adam.
I know.
I'll edit that out. Ice horse, huh? Is that what we're calling him? We're calling him the ice horse?
Yeah, I don't even No, I know that's like I think it's a Jared Carabas thing. I have no idea where it came from.
No.
I don't know what the
kind of into it, but I gotta hear more of why he's the Ice Horse.
Yeah, I need some background on that
Game
nickname.
of Thrones related thing.
Maybe I don't watch that either, which
Oh, man.
I'm sure.
Wow.
I know.
Adam.
I know.
I'll edit that out.
Yeah, we could do a whole hour just on that. I'm sure. All right. Well,
All right, man.
For Evan Valenti, Adam Kaufman, thank you for tuning in to us, and hopefully, not only will we remain on schedule next weekend, but hopefully we'll have more and more Celtics basketball to talk about once we get these freaking games playing again, and hopefully the C's can even up this series as the Bruins did with the Blue Jackets before their Game 5, just to add that little extra, here we go, best of 3 situation. I think we'd all feel a lot better with that.
Hello, I'm Dan Lothian, host of the Behind the Media podcast on the CLNS Media Network. Along with Jimmy Young, we dive into the big